Gulf Air 072, cleared to land, surface winds from 090 degrees at 8 knots. It was the evening of August 23, 2000. Gulf Air Flight 072, an Airbus A32, was on final approach to Bahrain International Airport. What began as a routine descent quickly turned into a life-or-death struggle. From 9 nautical miles out, the aircraft was aligned with the runway, but the configuration was completely wrong. The airspeed was dangerously high, surging past 313 knots. With the runway rapidly approaching, the pilots had only seconds to regain control. Would they manage to stabilize the aircraft in time, or would this approach end in tragedy? Earlier that day, the Airbus A320, registered A40EK, had boarded passengers in Cairo, Egypt, for its flight to Bahrain. The crew was young and relatively inexperienced. In command was Captain Ian Shakib, a 37-year-old Bahraini national with 4,400 flying hours, but only 86 as pilot in command. He was described by his colleagues as responsible, helpful, and sharp, a professional pilot still building his confidence. His first officer, 25-year-old Khalaf Al-Awar from Oman, had logged just 608 hours. During his initial A320 training, he struggled, failing his first proficiency check due to weak performance in landing procedures and engine out handling. After remedial training, he passed, but was still known to be quiet, polite, and shy, a personality often hesitant to challenge authority. On this flight, Captain Shakib was the pilot flying, while First Officer Al-Alawi was pilot monitoring. On board were 135 passengers and 6 flight attendants, a total of 143 souls from 17 nationalities. At 4:52 p.m. local time, with all checks complete, the aircraft pushed back from the gate in Cairo. A small delay of 52 minutes had occurred. The crew was mistakenly sent to the wrong gate, pushing their arrival into nightfall. After receiving takeoff clearance, the A32 roared down the runway and lifted smoothly into the fading Egyptian sky. The flight eastward over the Arabian desert was calm and uneventful. As the sun disappeared and darkness spread across the Gulf, passengers relaxed, unaware of what lay ahead. By 7:21 p.m., Flight 72 was descending through 14,000 feet, about 30 nautical miles from Bahrain. The crew contacted approach control in Dammam, across the strait in Saudi Arabia, and were cleared to descend to 3,500 feet before switching to Bahrain approach. The captain acknowledged and instructed his first officer to contact Bahrain control, asking if they could expect runway 12. Bahrain International Airport, located on the northern coast of the island, features a single runway, 3,956 meters long and 60 meters wide, equipped with high-intensity lighting for low-visibility landings. When First Officer Al-Alawi called Bahrain approach, the controller cleared them to continue to 3,500 feet and verify altitude. However, Captain Shakib misunderstood the clearance, believing it was for 7,000 feet. He told his first officer to report this incorrect altitude, and the controller immediately corrected them, confirming 3,500 feet was approved. This small miscommunication created a ripple effect, forcing the crew to descend faster than planned and upsetting their approach profile. As the descent continued, Bahrain approach instructed the crew to 1,500 feet and report established on final for the VOR DME approach to runway 12, a precision-demanding procedure requiring careful altitude and distance monitoring. The VOR beacon at Bahrain emits omnidirectional radio signals that help pilots determine their bearing, while DME gives real-time distance from the beacon, together forming the guidance path to the runway. Fortunately, weather that evening was clear. No turbulence, no low clouds, only calm skies over the Gulf. Yet this clarity would soon be their downfall. At 7:25 p.m., Flight 072 aligned with the runway 9 nautical miles out, but their airspeed was dangerously high, 313 knots, and the descent was steep. According to procedure, the aircraft should have been stabilized at 136 knots with full landing configuration, gear down, flaps fully extended by 5 nautical miles. Instead, the aircraft raced toward the runway at nearly twice that speed. The first officer reported they were established on the VOR, and Bahrain approach cleared them to continue and contact the tower. Still, the aircraft did not slow enough. At 1,608 feet and 224 knots, the captain called for flaps 1 and gear down. but it was already too late. By the time they crossed the final approach fix, the Airbus was still descending at 1,662 feet, over 100 feet too high, and 223 knots fast. The landing configuration was incomplete. Standard operating procedures required an immediate go-around. But instead, the captain announced that he had the airfield in sight, switched off the autopilot, and changed from the instrument-based approach to a visual one. The autothrottle remained active. It was a risky choice. Visual approaches at night can be disorienting, especially over dark water. Moments later, realizing the descent was unstable, the captain requested a 360-degree left turn. The tower approved. He then ordered flaps 2, hoping to slow the aircraft. The maneuver was unbriefed and unnecessary. The proper action was to climb to 2,500 feet and rejoin the pattern for a missed approach. Instead, he began a tight left turn less than a mile from the runway. The aircraft's altitude fluctuated wildly between 965 and 332 feet, with a maximum bank of 36 degrees. From the tower, controllers watched in disbelief. They had never seen such a steep, erratic turn so close to the ground. At 7:29 p.m., the captain leveled the wings on a heading of 211 degrees. The aircraft had just crossed the extended centerline of the runway. Realizing this, he remarked that they had overshot. He then rolled the plane into another left turn, instructing the first officer to report a go-around. The autothrottle was disengaged and takeoff go-around power was selected. Bahrain Tower instructed them to climb to 2,500 feet and fly heading 300 degrees. The flaps were set to position 3 and the landing gear was retracted. As the aircraft crossed the runway wings level again, a loud warning echoed through the cockpit: flap over speed. Their airspeed had reached 121 knots, exceeding the 85-knot limit for flaps at that setting. The A320 was now flying out toward the Gulf, away from the lights of Bahrain. As soon as they passed the runway, the brilliant glow of the airport disappeared completely. It was a moonless night, no horizon, no ground reference, only blackness. With the thrust still at full power and no visible cues, the captain's senses began to deceive him. He felt as though the aircraft was pitching up too sharply, a deadly illusion known as somatogravic illusion, caused by rapid acceleration in darkness. Believing they were climbing steeply, the captain pushed forward on the side stick. Instantly, the nose dropped. The Airbus began descending fast, though the pilots didn't realize it. Within seconds, the ground proximity warning system blared, sink rate, pull up, but there was no decisive action. The captain briefly pulled back on the stick, then released it. The aircraft continued to descend. Moments later, at 7:30 p.m., Gulf Air Flight 072 slammed into the shallow waters of the Persian Gulf, just 4 kilometers northeast of Bahrain International Airport. All 143 passengers and crew on board perished instantly. The impact shook the region. Rescue boats and divers rushed to the crash site, searching through wreckage under 3 meters of water. There were no survivors. The black boxes were recovered within days, offering investigators a chilling look at the final moments. The Bahraini Civil Aviation Authority led the investigation, assisted by Airbus and international experts. The flight data recorder revealed that after the go-around was initiated, the aircraft climbed briefly before entering a steep, uncontrolled descent. The cockpit voice recorder told the story of escalating confusion and miscommunication. No approach briefing had been properly conducted. The captain had abandoned standard missed approach procedures, and during the critical seconds of darkness, spatial disorientation sealed their fate. The investigation found that Captain Shakib's limited command experience, only 86 hours as PIC, and the first officer's inexperience contributed to poor crew coordination. The transition from instrument to visual approach in darkness, followed by an unbriefed 360-degree turn, led to complete loss of situational awareness. The somatogravic illusion, intensified by full throttle and a lack of external references, caused the captain to perceive a climb that wasn't happening, prompting him to push the nose down fatally. The final report, released in July 2002, cited pilot disorientation and failure to execute a standard go-around as the primary causes. The airline's training programs were also criticized for insufficient emphasis on night operations and spatial awareness. In the aftermath, Bahrain declared 3 days of national mourning. Gulf Air permanently retired the flight number 072, renaming the Cairo-Bahrain route as Flight 070. The tragedy served as a turning point for Gulf aviation. Training protocols were strengthened. New simulator scenarios were introduced, ones replicating darkness, illusions, and spatial confusion, ensuring future crews would never face the same deadly trap unprepared.